I am so pleased to have on the line with us one of the finest investigative journalists working in the United States right now, Lee Fang, investigative journalist with The Intercept. TheIntercept.com is the website. You can tweet him at LHFANG. I pronounce it Lee Fang. I think that's the right way to pronounce it, right, Lee?
That's right. Hey, Tom, how are you doing?
Great, but it's spelled like it's Fang, so I'm fine. So you've been producing some really great articles over at The Intercept. If there's anything that you want to jump into, feel free. But I was curious about your piece on Paul Ryan not really legislating at this point, and also on this whole thing on the prominent Democratic consultants signing up to defeat single payer in Colorado. These are two mind-boggling stories. Can you tell us about them?
Yeah, so, Colorado is one of the most interesting election items in front of voters this year beyond the presidential. They're proposing a state constitutional ballot measure that would set up a system that creates a state-based, essentially a single-payer system. And, we've seen cities and counties and other parts of the country pass resolutions saying they support single-payer.
Well, we saw Vermont do it, but they couldn't pull it off. They were too small.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of Democrats kind of pretend to propose it. In California Democrats in the legislature, when we had Schwarzenegger as governor, said they supported single payer. When they got a Democrat, Jerry Brown, as governor, then they said, okay, when they actually had the legislative path, they said, okay, well, we're not even going to try now. So there's been a lot of kind of like flag waving and a lot of posturing. But what's interesting about this Colorado initiative is that it goes directly to voters. If voters support this and enact it into law, it sets the stage for a really revolutionary system where every Colorado resident, I wish California, but every Colorado resident would become part of this system. They wouldn't have to pay any health insurance premiums, no deductibles, just a small copay, and it would cover all types of health care. It's regular checkups, mental health care, dental care, even open heart surgery, the works, pretty much leading all the way up to Medicare. Medicare would still exist for folks 65 and older, they'd still go into the federal system. So it's a pretty revolutionary system. And, in Canada, where they have a single-payer system, you have to remember, they began by testing out a provincial-level single-payer system, and the whole country kind of laughed at them, and eventually they saw such a success on the local level, the entire country adopted single-payer, and, of course, they have much lower healthcare costs, universal healthcare access, and much better outcomes, most importantly.
It started in Saskatchewan and went national. That's
right. So, there's the potential here for a similar dynamic to play out in Colorado. It's very interesting, but of course we're seeing the combined forces of folks like the Koch brothers and the biggest healthcare for-profit industries in the country collaborating to defeat this initiative to kind of snuff it out before it takes fire. And what's interesting is that they're hiring, as a new filing that came out Monday evening showed, and we reported on it yesterday, the healthcare interests are hiring mostly Democratic consultants, including some very prominent Democratic strategists who were active for Obama's campaigns. Now they're working on the super PACs supporting Hillary Clinton, but I suppose they see an opportunity to make a lot of money defeating single payer in Colorado. So they've been signed up for this initiative. And again, it's being funded by the big health insurance companies, Anthem, Cigna, Delta Dental, the biggest dental insurance company, as well as hospitals and lobbyists for the pharma industry.
Yeah, fascinating. By the way, I'm curious if you have an opinion or thoughts on the significance, meaning, consequences of last night's election and the two announcements of Kasich and Cruz going away.
I think the very kind of initial reaction is just kind of, I'm awestruck. One, and just seeing that all of these establishment candidates on the Republican side did not understand the Republican base. They don't listen to talk radio. They don't go out there in outside of the bubbles of New York and downtown D.C. and talk to regular voters. And it's really Trump who was able to look at the data, look at what Republican voters were interested in, and really harness that power, both in terms of like xenophobia and in terms of populist economic policy on trade, on entitlements. And Trump's really proven all of the kind of eggheads that run the Republican Party, these lobbyists and conservative intellectuals, proven them wrong. And I think in the kind of Schadenfreude moment of this election, it's also proven all the kind of elite media wrong, too, because look at the headlines at this time last year. All the corporate media said, don't worry about Trump. Nate Silver said he had a negative 10% chance of winning the nomination. Slate, folks at Vox, all these really elite media outlets that are funded through big advertisement dollars from Goldman Sachs and other big companies and have a lot of power, they really did not understand what was going on in the electorate. And they were so confident in predicting that Trump would not get the nomination. We really have to take just a moment of last night or today and look back and say, well, if all of these pundits who spend so much time just prognosticating and telling us predictions, they were so far off, maybe we have something wrong in the media. Yeah. Right? There's something going on in this country, and the media is not really serving us.
Yeah, I think that's very, very well said. Very, very well said. Also, your Paul Ryan piece. What are your thoughts on Paul Ryan and what he's up to these days?
Well, look, I don't really see a path right now for Paul Ryan to take the nomination away from Trump, but that is certainly now.
I think he's looking at 2020.
I do too. I think he's positioning himself in case there's still a very good chance that Trump implodes somehow, and that the Republican Party needs the white knight to come in and save the party, or at least if Trump loses this November, he's positioning himself as the kind of "I told you so" establishment.
Yeah, he becomes. I think he becomes the presumptive nominee if Trump loses in November.
Well, what's interesting here is that he's positioning himself so quickly without explicitly saying so, right? He says, oh, of course I don't want the nomination. I'm very happy as Speaker of the House. But, back in November of last year, when Paul Ryan was taking this position, he actually hired 8 communication staffers. I mean, the Speaker's office is filled with folks who specialize in creating talking points and social media memes and special videos. And they've been just constantly, subtly casting Paul Ryan as the savior of the party, using taxpayer expense, but creating these videos that look a lot like campaign videos. I mean, I don't know if your listeners have seen these, but they've been pumping them out of the Speaker's office. The first one kind of showing Paul Ryan speaking before an audience, saying, he's against identity politics. We need to bring the country together. The right. Second video, it looks like an action movie. He's stepping out of an SUV and meeting foreign dignitaries. In his recent trip to the Middle East, meeting with Israeli and Egyptian officials. It doesn't look like a normal press release or a video press release. It looks a lot like a campaign ad.
Yeah. Paul, well, I mean, he ran for vice president. It's not like we don't already know that this guy has an ambition to be in the White House.
Absolutely. And look at how he's been meeting with donors quietly. It's been reported in Politico and other places. And look at the timing of some of these videos. As soon as Trump clinches the nomination, yet another one of these campaign-style videos came out of the Speaker's office last night.
Yes.
It doesn't take a political genius to see what's happening.
Yeah. I wonder if he's on the short list for Trump for VP. Trump just said that he would consider vetting Kasich. I was wondering if Kasich dropped out because he'd been offered VP. Who knows? Anyhow, Lee Fong, thanks so much for being with us, Lee.
Tom, take care. Thanks for having me.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.